So this is where I do most of my work here. It's got all my stuff that I use for doing pneumatic stuff. I use a lot of hinges and holders and stuff, a lot of stuff that's chained to stuff, especially with the zombie theme. I got a bunch of cylinders in today, actually, or yesterday, so I have a lot of them out now. These here are single action cylinders. You see the air inlet here pushes the piston rod up, and then when you turn the valve off, the valve will release the air, and the spring inside of it will return the piston rod down to its normal setting. Then the next is your double action. This gives you more control over your cylinder. Air goes in one way, lifts the piston rod up. When you want it to go back down, you deactivate the valve, and then the valve actually sends air through here to this top port, and will bring the piston rod back down. You use that for something more rapid, like the box that rattles around a lot, something that's having convulsions, electricity, electric chair, that kind of prop. Just different size cylinders here, anywhere from, I think I have anywhere from 1/4 inch, 5/8 inch, up to, I have some that are like 2.5 to 3 inches. I think the inches are coming from the bore size. So from the thickness of it, that's the size. So this right here, that's 1.5 inches. The smaller ones I have here, I believe these are 5/8 or 7/16, somewhere around there. But again, just a ton of different stuff. These are very valuable, especially if you're running a lot of different props off one air compressor. This is an air reservoir. So what you do is, if you have an air line going from your compressor, let's say your air line's 20 feet long, it's easy for you or your prop, if you go activate it a few times within like a minute or so, it'll drain the air that's in that air line. So what you do is you use one of these air reservoirs or air volume tanks, and it'll hold the air there close to your prop. So you use an air line that go from your compressor to this air reservoir, and then right on the other side of the reservoir is your valve. So that way your prop doesn't run out of air, and it doesn't do anything. Once it runs out of air, you can't keep activating it. So those are pretty valuable. And then also you can use bigger tanks too. If you have one good compressor, you can have it in one area, then you can have it sent out to smaller air tanks, so it'll keep filling up. But just different valves. This is a two-way valve. This is usually used for something that's like blowing air at someone, for like a startle effect, or for spitting water, or small air poppers, stuff like that. You don't really use it too much for with cylinders. What you use for cylinders more or less would be something like this. This is what you would use for a double action cylinder, the ones with the top and the bottom. You have your air in, then you have exhaust mufflers on it, and everything I use is 110 volt. You can do anywhere from 12 volt, 24 volt, 110, 220, just depending on what you're running. I like to do 110, that way everything just plugs right into. I can wire it and plug it directly into anything household. I use motion sensors like this that'll, especially for single action props. That way you can have it set up so when someone triggers it, the prop will go off, usually for something like jumps up, and then it's up for 5 seconds or whatever it is, 5-7 seconds, something like that. It's the shortest you can do, and then it'll go down. That way you don't have to have any controller other than that. There's a few other ways you can do, like these here, wireless trigger controllers. That way you can be somewhere else, you turn it on, turn on your prop. You can be 50 feet away, 20 feet away, whatever. Maybe someone in the room setting them up. You trigger it to go off, and then turn it on, turn it back off. And you can get those, like here, this one here that's up here. This is a 3-channel wireless remote valve. So you can actually run 3 different props, pneumatic props, or whatever you want to use on it, off with one controller. And you can actually buy ones online that'll control up to 12 of them that I know of. You can buy them at Freight Props, or you can buy them on eBay, like Hong Kong or someplace, for a heck of a lot cheaper. They're pretty cheap things anyway. So other than that, stuff like this, fittings that you use, I don't know if you can see that very well in there, just fittings that you use for working with air stuff, the fittings that'll go like on here and stuff. I have a lot of those things. You have to have those. I usually replace them out every year because they do kind of wear out. Airline back here, I use a lot of black airline. You can buy that at Fright Props, 100 feet of it for 10 bucks. That's pretty cheap, and it's cheaper than airline. You can use it pretty much the same way you'd use a air compressor line. And then as far as setting up, building your props, I mean, a lot of my stuff, especially my first stuff I built out of wood, and pretty much everything I have a hinge type thing on one side and then a compressor on the other side. So I mean, air cylinder on the other side, so you have a hinge that kind of like a doorway, and then compressor to open it and close it. So anything like a lid or a box, they're all going to have hinges. So that's why you see a lot of hinges I use depending on how heavy duty it is, or if I want something to have a certain look. I've got a bunch of these older ones I like to use just because they make a bunch of squeaking noises. So the rest of this stuff up here is for prop making. It's all latexes and stuff like that. Paints, I do a lot of painting and stuff. And then a lot of my props I build on my own. As you can see, a wolf skull I've been working with. These are all homemade here, so hopefully this helps you a little bit. I'll throw this on YouTube that we can check it out. And if you have any questions, I have a lot more other equipment too I can show you if you need to.